and welcome to Waypoint, the podcast from AirMed&Rescue. My name is Mandy Langfield and I'm your host for this week. Joining me is Kim Germishuys, a winch operator with years of experience in the search and rescue industry. Kim, thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having me, Mandy. It's great to be here.
Oh, lovely to have you. So first of all, let's begin with a little bit of your background and your experience in the industry before we get on to what you're doing now.
So my background is I'm South African by birth, and I started as a volunteer helicopter rescue swimmer in South Africa. So I have a history of lifeguarding, and then also I used to be with the National Sea Rescue Institute, which is a voluntary, most rescue in South Africa is actually voluntary. The National Sea Rescue Institute in South Africa is the RNLI equivalent. So or 90% of their members are all voluntary. So through them and also through Surf Lifesaving, I found helicopter rescue and became a volunteer helicopter rescue swimmer. And then just grew in the role in South Africa while I was also a medical sales rep for my full-time job. So grew within that role and eventually became a hoist operator for Sea Pilot Service in South Africa. And moved on then to Germany and did sea pilot operations in the North Sea for a couple of years. And after that, in 2021, got a job here with the Dutch Caribbean Coast, with then Draken, who had the previous contract for the Dutch Caribbean Coast Guard. So working out here in lovely, sunny, and very hot Curacao.
Oh, God, from South Africa to the North Sea to the Caribbean, those are some different atmospheres and types of ocean and sea to work in, right?
Yeah, and I go back to the North Atlantic in a few months' time, so it's pretty good.
You better pack your winter woolies then.
So glad I did not get rid of my winter clothes.
Okay, so you're in Curacao now. So what role are you working in? What are the parameters of that role? What's it like?
I'm currently working for Bristow, Netherlands. So the Bristow Netherlands, we are seen as the Curacao branch, and we are contracted to the Dutch Caribbean Coast Guard. So for the Dutch Caribbean Coast Guard, we perform daily patrols, and within the area of response, within their area of responsibility in the Southern Caribbean. So we stick to the three islands of Aruba, Bonaire, and Curacao, and we perform duties for the Coast Guard out here, and that is basically to search and rescue, and then also special air missions where we'll do daily patrols for them, or as required flights when the need arises.
So when the need arises, so you're on call a lot, but you must also have like you say, daily responsibilities and daily missions. Like, are you kept busy all the time? Do you find like peaks and troughs of missions at certain types of year? Like, is there like a tourist season where you'll suddenly be doing loads of search and rescue stuff because everyone's floating out to sea on their inflatables and stuff, or not?
Funny you should say floating out to sea on their inflatables, because that is a very real possibility, unfortunately. Although I haven't been called out for one of those, but a friend of mine's mother-in-law got caught by the wind. So yeah, that's actually quite a funny story, but she did not get too far. But back on track, we have a constant wind out here. So inflatables offshore is not a good idea. So you don't find too many people on floaties at the beaches, because especially the beaches which are affected by wind, because you will very easily find yourself in either Venezuela or Aruba or somewhere in the Caribbean Sea. So it's not advised to be on a floaty at the beach here. So we are kept quite busy. We do 24-hour shifts. So like most SAR bases and like in the UK and stuff. But here, because of the fact that it ebbs and flows in terms of how busy we are. So, and we can't predict it because of the fact that it is always summer here. So our tourist season is actually largely governed by hurricane season. So it's one of the main attractions, or one of the main tourist routes out here is cruise ships. So we'll get in season, we will get, which is outside of hurricane season, we will literally have up to 3 cruise ships here a day. Yeah, it gets really busy for the island, but
Yeah.
we are quite blessed with the fact that it doesn't actually, not too many people end up needing medical evacuations from those cruise ships because of how many stops are along the Southern Caribbean.
Right.
And then, so it is basically, there's the constant climate, and we're also outside of the hurricane belt. So we don't actually get hurricanes here. So it makes it very popular in terms of the fact that the Canadians, Americans, and the Dutch love to come to Curacao. And it is you'll get a high tourist season is actually when we have a constant flow of flights of people coming in, but it just increases when there are tourists here on cruise ships. So in terms of that, we can't even predict a busy season because it is just all year round. So it's that usual, like you'll get in 1 month, there will be a bunch of calls. And then for like 2 months, there is absolutely nothing. And I've tried to look for a trend in terms of that, in terms of months, there isn't one. So yeah, but we perform.
So when you're not busy, how do you make sure that you're keeping training, you're constantly at least keeping going with what you need to learn and what you need to practice, if you're not asking yourselves, the crew, to put it into practice in real life?
Constant practice. Well, it's like so for us, we're actually quite lucky that the Coast Guard requires us to do patrol flights. So on those patrol flights, I mean, we can be where some bases will not be called out and they only have dedicated training flights. We know that we're going to fly in a shift. We know that we might fly twice in a shift because of these patrol flights. And the beauty of it is that we're allowed to plan our training into those patrol flights. So like everybody else, we have set currencies, and we also use any ships that are coming past in the, we call decks of opportunity. We are lucky that we've got cliffs. So built into that, if we just say we want to do certain types of training, we just request to the captain and we say, can we please do sits, decks, wets, and then they will program it into our flight or into the patrol at some point so that we can actually then get training done in every single flight that we do. So we're quite lucky with that respect. We're still mandated to do our patrols, but we're very lucky that we can actually then train within our patrols at the same time. So it's not actually very quiet. It's quite busy, to be honest.
But that's wonderful that you get to, you know, it's the achieving double the workload, double the outcome if you're training and doing your patrols at the same time. I wondered, just to bring it back to the cruise ships for a second, do you get to train with them, like in terms of doing the medevacs and stuff? I guess if they're coming into port so often, you don't often get called on to actually go out to the ships.
Unfortunately, when they're coming in, usually Curacao is their first port of call.
Okay.
So they're motoring in to get to the island. So they very often are not actually, they're not keen to train because they've got a set time that they've got to arrive at. Going back on that, they've got a set time to meet the sea pilot. And then when they are finishing or they're leaving the island, it's usually 9 o'clock at night. So then they're off to wherever the next destination is. So training with the cruise ships is actually not something that we get to do very often, but we do have the opportunity to train with the Coast Guard vessels. That does, so that is also really great. And then we have quite a few local fishermen and other boats in the vicinity that we're able to then do training with. So doing a deck winch is not something that is few and far in between. It's actually one of our favorite things to do. So we get the training with that, luckily.
Yeah, because I mean that, especially off the smaller decks, it's got to be pinpoint accuracy.
Yes. Yeah. Which is good. Keeps us sharp.
Yeah, for sure. So we've talked a bit there about the real life training that you get to do, whether it's part of your daily patrols or as special training missions. How about the use of simulators? I mean, we in the magazine, we write about virtual reality and mixed reality simulation all the time. It looks like the costs of like the simulators are coming down, the computer software is becoming more accessible. You don't need the full flight simulators anymore. For winch operators, hoist technicians, is it the same kind of thing? Are you seeing the ability to train more in VR and MR?
Yes, actually, it's for the tech crew. It's actually one of the how do you say, technologies that's coming up right now.
Yeah.
You've got the hoist simulators, which now are you see at all the shows, which is really great. And within that, I mean, flying costs money. So, and when it comes also down to the training, the best way to do the training is in a controlled environment first. And that's
Sure.
exactly what those environmental centers like Merituva and also the Bavarian Mountain Rescue Training Facility in Bad Tolst has gotten, they provide for tech crew. So you've got that simulation training in terms of being in a controlled environment in a place that's basically can throw other types of weather or there's wave pools and stuff at you. But then you've got also the hoist sims, which are now which have been developed and are being implemented with various training facilities or various training schools that are out there, like Leonardo, like Priority One and AR UK. So, and they're all providing these sort of virtual reality training for tech crew that at least reduces the amount of time. It increases, or don't want to say it reduces the amount of time. It increases the amount of training time that the hoist operator, winch operator, or basically the tech crew gets prior to them actually being put onto a helicopter. So it also helps increase their confidence prior to them getting to that stage, which is really important, because adding in then the noise and the movement of the aircraft and the downwash, things then it takes up quite a bit of the capacity. Bristow is actually now developing, I think it is in your next issue, they've spoken about training, and they're about to build their own environmental training facility, which is going to include a hoist training facility. Is going to include the simulators, and then also everything to do with the virtual reality side, plus the environmental pools that they have at other facilities as well. So it's quite nice to see that big companies are actually now going to invest in doing training from start to finish, but also in one facility. So that's actually quite exciting to see that coming along.
I think, as you say, it's coming along. It's amazing that it's taken so long for it to happen. Like, pilots have been doing these simulators for decades, literally, and it's like the poor tech crew, literally in the back going like, guys, we need training too.
Yeah, but it's also, I think that the difference comes in is that historically, and I have a unique role, a unique pathway to how I got to where I am now. But historically, if you think about it, especially in Europe and still in the US, tech crew are trained in the military. And then when they finish in the military, then they're going into private operations.
Right.
But nowadays, you've actually got, now that search and rescue has actually been privatized, that pathway has now come, or is basically going to be coming to an end. So companies have to start thinking about, how are we going to get our tech crew? Where are they going to train before they come to us? because pretty soon finding someone that has the experience and has all that training background before they come into the private sector is not going to be there anymore. So companies now have to start thinking about training a civvy from scratch. And I was very lucky that when I was in South Africa, that the military pathway was not something that I thought of. It also wasn't something that was because the South African Air Force, their aircraft engineers are the hoist operators. So, yeah, and that actually happens also in the US Coast Guard. So you've got your air maintenance technician, the AMT, is actually the winch op or the hoist operator on those Coast Guard aircraft. Yeah.
Okay. So, which is useful from a point of view of if something goes wrong in the aircraft when you're flying, the right person's there to fix it. But
if you get stuck at an airport or something like that, you at least have someone that can look at into the situation. But it's those pathways are now becoming very limited. So they need to find a way, or they need to look to the future of where is the future of tech, where are our future tech crew coming from? So Bristow already have got the cadetship program where they invite paramedics, already qualified paramedics, to apply to become a winchman paramedic cadet, where they train them from scratch all the way through to becoming a operational winchman. And that's proven to be very beneficial for them. But now you're also looking at where are our winch ops coming from?
Yeah.
So it's really nice as a civvy to actually see that all of these developments, or how do you say, all these training facilities and training pathways are now coming to fruition. And there's possibilities for others out there who didn't join the military, but now actually want to start a career in aviation. So it is coming. It has just taken some time to get there.
Well, sometimes we do have to be patient with these pathways, as you say. It's interesting what you're saying about the recruitment of a paramedic and then training them to do another job on the aircraft as well, because I think that's one of those incredible things that we talk about in aviation is the team, the crew, the amazing ability to know where each other is and what each other's doing the whole time. The crew resource management is incredible. For a SAR crew, everybody's got to know everything seamlessly. And I mean, you've got to have that cohesive working relationship. So, I mean, how do you go about managing that? Do you always have the same crew on your 24-hour rotations? Do you work with all the different people all the time, or how do you do it?
I think that's one of the most amazing things about I'm going to say aviator, in terms of you can't think with blinkers on. You have to think laterally, and you have to think out the box. You have to also be adaptable to because you never know actually what you're going to get when you get out there, because you'll have one thing and you'll have built a picture in your head, and when you get on scene, it can be completely different to like what you had previously thought.
Yeah.
So being able to be, it's not just adaptable in your environment and your scenario, but it's also your being able to be adaptable with your crew and the type of crew or the crew that you're working with. Yeah. So in terms of that, I very often do not have the same crew. So I'll probably work with the same crew for 3 days, and then in my next rotation, completely different. So you are working with different personalities, different backgrounds, different training backgrounds. Because one thing about this operation in particular is that it is quite multicultural. So and you are having to you're having to actually think along those lines of, so with regards to your crew resource management, you are constantly employing like the different tools that they have taught us in our CRM classes in order to maintain that safe working environment and also that crew cohesiveness. Teamwork is massive. And also part of that is also is communication, because you need to be clear in your communications. Everyone needs to be on the exact same page with regards to what we are doing. And when it comes down to the job, and then when you're coming back, you all have got also different experiences that you're drawing from. So the nice thing is also being open to feedback when you come back and you're doing your debriefs and stuff, because someone might have been through the same situation that you've done now, or scenario that you've just worked through previously, and everyone can then also bring in their experience that you can then take on. It's like a knowledge share. Yeah. And we learn from experiences. So, and also not just from our own experiences, but from others' experiences too. So, with regards to that, it's really a very big team effort with regards to CRM and being able to encompass that. But it's not just the crew on the aircraft, it's being situationally aware, like even at the base. So it's extended right down to everyone on base as well. Everyone in their own teams then coming together as the larger team to make that mission happen, to make those flights happen, and to make the entire, base a success. So it's quite a big thing.
It's very broad, and it comes back to what you were saying about it's about safety. It's about getting the crews home safely.
Yeah.
Right? Because there's no point sending people out there if nobody gets home, if the victim doesn't get home, and if it causes an accident or an incident that means the helicopter or also a member of the crew doesn't get home either. So, I mean, in terms of safety, it's actually, the Coast Guard's got an incredible safety record, really. So it's obviously a real focus. What do you think is the biggest sort of contributor to that safety record?
Safety is a mindset. It needs to be at the forefront of your brain. But at the same time, for safety to happen, one needs to be professional with their job and in their environment, and then also care about their job and their environment and the people around them. Yeah. Bristow is actually coming out with their new safety ethos is care, because of the fact that, and this is what they're adopting as their safety culture going forward, is the fact that we need to care for each other. Because if you care for your job, you care for your crewmate, if you care for everyone else around you, you're going to ensure that they are safe. You're going to ensure that they're going to come home safely. Whether you are the engineers that stay behind, the office staff, you want to make sure that everyone has the tools everyone has the tools available to ensure that they're going to come home from that flight safely. Yeah. And then on the flight deck, in the aircraft itself, every single person cares about someone else in that aircraft. And they want to make sure that not only they're coming home, like the person, the individual, but I want my winchman to come home. I want that person that's in the water to come home. So it's that level of care for what you do and professionalism that ends up resulting in safety and making sure that you're like, we've got this. And then everyone comes home at the end of the day. So
that's a wonderful cultural ethos. That's a great way to sell it. If you care enough, safety is the byproduct of caring enough.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you're going to do it right.
Yeah.
Oh,
so it's actually
makes me feel all warm inside.
It does, doesn't it? I was like, I love it when I love watching a crew go out and then you're like, go team. And then they come back and they come and tell you about like the job and stuff. And you can just hear everyone's like, so what happened on that job? So how did it go? And everyone is just so invested and like, we're lucky we're here. We actually have such a close-knit team, which is really awesome. And we're not just a close-knit team with the helicopter unit, but we're close. We've also got there's also the Dash 8 that flies for the Coast Guard. And even them, like the entire base is actually like we interact between the two. And it's like they care about us. We care about them. We want to know when they come back. They want to, while we're on a job, they want to be there for that. So it really is like, it does give you the warm and fuzzies at the end of the day.
Oh, well, it sounds like, you've definitely, you've got a really good family out there, from that perspective.
I do. Yeah. So it's good. It's great working with all of them. And you feel safe.
Yeah.
That's the other thing. So it's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Being with with your trusted peers and your colleagues, that's what it all comes down to.
Yeah.
Awesome. Right, changing the subject a bit now, because we've got overly invested in the warm and fuzzies. Okay. We talked a little bit at the beginning about the different places that you've worked in. South Africa and the North Sea and the Caribbean. From a processes, from a jurisdictions point of view, like what do you think about how the different systems are run? Are there strengths and weaknesses of all the different sort of places that you've seen and that you've worked? Do you think that working in those different places and seeing those different processes has helped you bring kind of new processes and new standards to the different places you've worked in?
It is definitely, I feel, having a broad perspective or worldwide outlook is definitely beneficial, because we can get caught in the trap of, but we've always done it this way.
So easy to do in any job.
And yes, and what it does do is replace complacency. Mm-hmm. So it is, I think, so many operations now have actually got a multicultural outlook, or they're drawing from crews who have come from other operations. And I often do hear, how do you guys do it there?
Okay.
Which is really great.
Positive. Yeah.
It shows the removal of blinkers. It shows the thing of, but our way is the best way. I mean, like the removal thereof. So it's and it also then helps other operations. Well, the other operations to improve their standards and their processes and SOPs. And that is something here. We're like a cultural hotpot, this space. We've got Spanish, we've got British, we've got Dutch, we've had Finnish, we've had American, and you can actually see the additions of the different ways of thinking and how it has impacted the operation in a positive way. And that is, it's absolutely awesome. And especially for me, coming from South Africa, going through Germany, now coming here, my next move is also going to be quite a different one. So I'm actually moving to Ireland next. There's
definitely going to be a change in climate and culture for sure. But
Yep, it's not going to be hot every day, that's for sure. And it's not going to be sunny every day, but I'm looking forward to the new challenge. But it's like all of those, like it almost like for me, it has prepared me always for the next move. And it's made me very accepting and open to the operation, to the next operation that I go to, because you are very much going, okay, cool, I've done it this way, how do you do it? And you have then, you, in your brain, it's like you kind of cherry pick those experiences to make yourself and what you like, make yourself professionally better. There's always that striving to do better and be more professional and have a better outcome for the job at the end of the day. And I love learning from other people. So it is, for me, it's just been absolutely amazing to go through the different opportunities and to see the different ways that, even down to like, how do I say this, aviation regulators are in different countries, and seeing the differences with those. And it's actually, I'd advise anyone actually to try and get experiences from other operations, because it really does open up your perspective at the end of the day. And just really does actually like make you think and I like that worldwide like perspective of it.
Absolutely. That exchange of knowledge is so key again. And I mean, it's applicable to a lot of industries, but in medicine and aviation, there are people doing it differently everywhere, whether it's medicine or aviation, or the combination of the two that we talk about so much in AirMed&Rescue. It's I mean, we go to a lot of industry events for on our insurance side, and then for the Heli Expo Verticon, as it is now, sorry, and all of those kinds of things. But do you think there's enough sort of international learning exchange opportunities on the search and rescue side? Do you think that there could or should be more?
It's definitely getting a lot more. As you know, I'm part of EUROSA, the Rescue Swimmers Association.
Yeah.
And for that, it's the name EUROSA, don't get confused. No one should confuse it with the fact that it's just European. It's international. There are rescue swimmers from as far afield as, and winchmen as well, and retired rescue swimmers who are now winch ops, hoist operators in the industry, all retired and moved on. The membership base is across from the States to Canada to New Zealand, myself, South African, is how I started with them, to the majority of Europe and even South America. And we have these meetings every 2 years, and it is so awesome to see people coming together and sharing their experiences. We just had a meeting now recently in Denmark, and it was amazing to just stand back and be a bit of a wallflower at one point, and watching people from Latvia talking to guys from New Zealand, and like asking how things are going and how do they do things. We have a conversation thread which has continued past that. We have a chat group, and guys have gone back to their bases and are now asking the questions to the entire group, going, are you using this piece of equipment? Or is there something similar? What do you do for this procedure? And it's so great to see that knowledge share on the winchman rescue swimmer side. And that's happening continuously. And then you've actually got on the hoist operator side or winch op side, you've got the Collins Goodrich conference that happens once or twice a year. This year it's actually happened twice, where they've had one in the States, and then they're actually joining up with the DRF Hoist Symposium in September. So it's really great that you've got now that dedicated rescue hoist symposium in Germany later this year, and you've got then a separate hoist conference for hoist and winch operators to attend, to do the exact same thing of sharing knowledge. So for tech crew, it has taken time, but all things, Rome wasn't built in a day. It's really coming up to a point where it's great to see that everyone is so open with sharing and wanting to get out there to learn more from others.
Yeah, so, it's, as you say, progress and still more to come. And I think that as long as that conversation continues after the events, as you're saying, you see it happen in real life, those questions are and the answers are still being given. So that's incredibly positive. People are recognizing that there's this global pool of experts to call on all the time.
Exactly.
That's brilliant.
And they call each other friends at the end of the day, because they end up picking up the phone and going, I need advice, or I just need a chat after this mission. Or so it's really great to actually see the worldwide camaraderie between all tech crew nowadays. It's actually, for a little person from South Africa, it's great to see this big wide world like opening up to people out there. So yeah.
I mean, it's opening up to everyone. I think this is something that I've wondered for a while. Obviously, we've been in contact for quite a few years, but I mean, you're working in what is quite undoubtedly a male-dominated industry. You have said winchman about 4 times in the last 25 minutes.
I didn't realize you were keeping count.
Because I knew this was coming.
I think.
How many women are in the industry? Are you seeing more as time has gone on? I mean, what's it been like for you, for women in a male world?
Bristow actually now calls them winch paramedics in the UK, but that's with the paramedic prefix.
Yeah.
I mean, I always say to people, so what's the last 3 letters, like the bottom back end of the word woman? So it's like, it's a human. So it's from the time that I started way back in 2003 till now, I have seen an amazing growth in the amount of women in the industry. It is actually now pretty normal for there to be females in aviation. And I'm not talking about the pilot side, because the pilot side has been growing like many years ahead. Yeah. Whereas on the tech crew side, it wasn't so common. I mean, I actually got into the helicopter rescue side because I saw another female lifeguard as a rescue swimmer on the helicopter. And I was like, I can do that. And I feel like with the role of, or how do you say, female role models that have basically come out, that are out there for others to see, more women are going, I can do that. And that's how it has actually gone, how it's basically grown. But it's not just, if I can say, more women. Quite a while back, it became very, as I said, normal for there to be females in the industry. And we aren't just being inspiration for, it's not just women are being inspiration for the next generation, it's men as well. You always, if you go to shows and stuff or static displays, or the school visits come, you have little girls and little boys coming to you going, I want to do that. Yeah. Which is really really awesome, because it's now not seen as, it's not always like I see another girl doing that. It's I see that cool person doing that. I want to do that. And it's really like it's how the younger generation are inspired to do future careers. And it's really awesome to see how the industry has just grown to being that of, it's not unusual.
Yeah.
For now to get, I mean, I still get it's still fun though when, because obviously I've got quite long hair, so I have a braid sticking out of my helmet when I'm flying. But it is quite fun though to see the surprise on someone's face when you take your helmet off and they're like, oh, you're a woman. And it's like, yes, I am. And then they're like, yeah, that's actually quite cool. Yeah, it is. I do a cool job. So
yeah, I think that's that's definitely a given. You do a cool job.
Yeah. So it's really, it's like, it was 20 years ago, it was a lot tougher than it is now.
Yeah.
Which I think says a lot in terms of how quickly the industry has actually caught up to the point of going, well, this is actually cool. Like, we've got a full change room of women. Like, you know, it's not like just one locker, it's 5.
Yeah.
And that's like a hypothetical thing, but that's just like the representation that there is nowadays.
Yeah.
So, and it's really, really awesome that it's gotten to that point. It's a wonderful industry to actually be in, because everyone is actually just cheering everyone else on, which is really awesome.
And that's a really positive note to end our discussion on. I've got one more question, quick fire round.
Yes.
Rescue swimmer or winch operator?
Oh, gosh.
Oh, come on, you got to answer.
Rescue swimmer.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Hard. Come on.
Right, I think we've got to end it there. Kim, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. It's been really wonderful talking to you.
Oh, it's no problem, Mandy. Thank you so much for reaching out. And it's great to actually see you face to face and have a chat after all these years. So yeah.
After all these years. Well, hopefully I'll see you in person soon. I'll get to one of the Eurosa events.
That would be amazing. Yes, we will let you know where the next one is going to be. I think it will be in 2026. The location is yet to be decided, but hopefully I'll run into you before then at some point. But definitely, I think you should come to our next meeting. Come and meet all the fantastic people that are out there.
Thanks for listening, everyone. Tune in again soon for our next episode of Waypoint, the podcast from AirMed&Rescue.